What's up, y'all? I am Ray, and today I will prove that there is no death. And if you are prone to anxiety, please watch until the end, because this will shake your world. And I will do this without needing belief or faith. So hold on to your butts. Now this is very simple. It's not that complicated to understand, but you must come to see this to be true for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. Car. Looks like a car. But no, it is reality. When you break reality down to its two fundamental elements, these are the only two things that exist from the moment you are born until the moment you die. Supposedly. There is an infinite array of changing experiences upon the backdrop of an unchanging awareness. The only two things that exist. Try to find something that is not a changing experience. And when you find that something, you will realize, it is the unchanging awareness. When you're in the womb, that is a changing experience. And then you're born, that is a changing experience. And then you grow up. And then when you go to sleep at night, you fall into the dream state. What happens? Another infinite array of changing experiences. And then finally, in the state of deep sleep, another changing experience. And it changes because, well, you wake up again and then experience a whole nother infinite array of changing experiences. But were you not there the whole time? Were you not there in the womb and being born and growing up? Are you not there in the dream state? And here is a tough one. Are you not there in the state of deep sleep? Well, the moment you can see that this is true, you recognize, well, wait a minute. The unchanging is the same thing as the eternal. And the eternal cannot die because it was never born. It simply always was. And so what is death but another changing experience? That of which you will still be there to be aware of. And you see what happens is that in the state of deep sleep, everything merges back into oneness. Separation disappears. And you cannot have experience without two. As it is said, the sharpest knife in the whole universe can cut anything, but it can never cut itself. The strongest, hottest fire can burn anything, but it cannot burn itself. The greatest scale can weigh 10,000 elephants, but the scale can never weigh itself. And so too, eyes can see many things, but the eyes can never see themselves directly. So too, you cannot experience yourself because you are one with yourself. And so that is why in the deep sleep, there is a void. You could say the absence of experience, or it is the experience of nothingness. In the beginning there was dark, and then there was light. And you are the light. You are the light. The light of awareness. The only reason we believe in death is because, well, we identify with our changing experiences. Because death is the very nature of change. We identify with our body changes. We identify with our mind changes. Our thoughts change, our personality changes. But are you not there behind all of it? Aware of these changes? You see, the great example is that of gold. You take a gold bar and you melt it down into a gold ring and into a gold bracelet and into a gold necklace. Looks more like a potato. A gold potato. We say there is a ring, there is a bracelet, there is a potato. No. There is only the same one gold temporarily manifesting in these different forms. And that is how reality manifests itself. But because we identify as being a potato, when the potato changes and goes away, we feel like we too will go away. But the gold is everlasting. It does not die. It simply changes forms. And we believe that we die because, well, I already went over that. You see, factually speaking, our entire solar system is made up of recycled stardust. Billions of years ago, many a supernova exploded, stars exploding their guts all over the place. sending out the elements of the universe to be gathered back up and formed into more stars, planets, gas giants, and asteroids, and dust and rocks and things like that. But at the end of the day, it all came from stars. And what are stars? Stars are big balls of energy. Sorry, my eye itched. Please forgive me. So all matter is merely energy condensed to a slow vibration. There is no such thing as death. Life is only a dream. We are all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. But you see, here's the problem. In truth, we're all energy. That is the true nature of what we are. The problem is, like the gold energy? Wow. But the problem is, we identify as being human. As this body, here I am, a man or a woman, or both. We identify with our thoughts. I am a spiritual teacher and a guru, and a man of taste. But these are all just thoughts, and you are not a thought. I hope not, at least. But you are energy. You are gold. That is your true nature, which is a very wonderful thing, because most people are living from ego, a very limited state of consciousness. Ego is basically a bundle of thoughts that we choose to believe in. And we spent our whole lives in that state, in this limited ego state. But no atheist nor any scientist would deny that we are all energy. It's not just a spiritual cliche that we're all made up of the same stardust. It is proven fact. But yet that is not how we experience reality now, is it? We experience reality as a human being, as a separate individual, whether that be a potato, or a ring, or a bracelet. We're a human. We identify with the unique forms, and what enlightenment is. It's realizing that you are not the body, you are not your mind, you are not the ego, or your thoughts. But you are the same one divine energy. That is God. That light that you are is the divine essence of God. One drop out of a vast and infinite ocean that people call the kingdom of heaven. Pure absolute bliss. That is your true nature. You are not your little thoughts. And a good thing too. And this is why we say you are not a human having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. And guess what? Because we don't recognize our true nature, we are living in ignorance. Don't worry, I'm here to help. And because 99% of all human beings who have ever lived are living in ignorance, we just assume that's the way it is. Everybody's in the same boat, and that boat is sinking, my friends. Time to hop off into a nicer boat, a big yacht. The yacht of God. God's yacht. And you see, obviously, human beings thought that this was of importance because in the greatest book ever sold, the Bible, this was one of the first things it talked about in the Garden of Eden. Because think of it this way. God, which is eternal life, which is energy, its very nature is heaven. Its very nature is bliss. And in the beginning, Adam and Eve were at one with God, and that was paradise. But what happened? They ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Separation. And what is separation from bliss? Suffering. And so they were cursed by what they call original sin. To live in separation from God. They were kicked out of paradise. And every human being since then, whenever that was, has been struggling with this. Because how many people do you know who are struggling? Everybody. Everybody's struggling. With something, at least. But think about this. God, by its very definition, just the word itself, implies the ultimate, the totality of everything. So God, by definition, must be omnipresent, must be everywhere. And God also, by definition, must be eternal. Because, well, if something is limited, it cannot be named God. And so too, if God is here but not there, that places limitations on an unlimited thing. This is all semantics. It doesn't require belief. We're just using the definition of the word God, which implies the ultimate. And so if God is everywhere always, that means that God can never be separated from you, which means that you are already in heaven. You're only dreaming that you're not. There is no such thing as separation. There is only the illusion of separation. And so long as we are living in that illusion, we're living in ignorance and we're living in suffering. What is called samsara or Maya or the Matrix, whatever you want to call it. We live in separation from God, and so therefore we suffer. Or you could say we live in separation from our true nature. We think that we're living life, but no. Life is living us. Life is living and expressing itself through us, and that life is eternal. The whole universe is energy, simply transmuting into an infinite array of different forms. But you that are the same one life as all of us does not die. It just changes. And because we get attached and believe ourselves to be separate individual forms, like the potato, we believe in death. Because the forms that we identify with change and go away. But at the end of the day, you do not. And what you find is that when you awaken to your true nature, the fear of death begins to fade away. Because you can see with your own two eyes, with your third eye, that death does not exist. You know for certain that you are eternal. But only when we believe in separation, in the illusion, in ignorance, does this seem radical. And to throw a little spice on things, peace, love, joy, and abundance. This is your natural state of being. It is not struggle. It is not hardship. It is not difficulty. It is effortless, everlasting, infinite peace, love, joy, and abundance. And 99% of all human beings could not agree with this because that is not what they experience. They experience separation from this. And so they spend their whole lives out into the world trying to get these things. But you are the source of these things. All human beings since the beginning of time, all desire is secretly an attempt to return back to heaven, back to your true self, back to God. Because God is the source of all things. Now the reason that we live in illusion and in ignorance is simple biology. You could say the story of the Garden of Eden and the fall of man is our origin story as a species. Because what happened is that, well, another thing you may experience. We have these things called brainwave frequencies. And depending on how fast these brainwaves are vibrating per second, determines which state of consciousness we are in. Brainwaves are simply electrical impulses in the brain. So you can say our mind is created through the vibration of energy, but more specifically electricity in the brain. So when we're vibing slow, 0.1 to 4 hertz per second, we're unconscious, we're asleep. The mind is completely dissolved. In the theta state, in the dream state, everything exists in this kind of milky oneness. Think about the dream state, the dream world. Even though you have a slight sense of separation, everything still kind of exists in this oneness. But what happens as you awaken in the morning? Higher and higher brainwave states, 8 hertz to 12 hertz. When you awaken in the morning, the sense of separation is strongest. Think about how you experience reality right now. You're either in the alpha or beta brainwave state, or if you're going to sleep right now, you're probably in high theta. But when you're awake, you have the strongest sense of separation. When you look around at the objects in your room, you don't say that, well, I am this curtain, I am this light, I am this box of chocolates. We feel separate from these things. Why? For no other reason than the vibration of our current brainwaves. In this spectrum right here, alpha to beta, 8 hertz to 40 hertz, we have the strongest sense of self. For whatever reason, these brainwaves cause the strongest sense of separation. And so what happened is that over our evolutionary history, human brains got powerful enough to produce higher and higher brainwave states. And the higher and higher brainwave states you go, the more sense of individuality you have. One of the first telltale signs of any animal that is beginning to develop higher brainwave states, the first thing is self-recognition. As a famous mystic quote once said, "In the rocks and the trees, God sleeps. In the fish and the birds and the reptiles and the bugs, God dreams. But in man and women, God awakens." Only in human beings can God wake up to its true nature. Otherwise, it has forgotten. Life is like God's great game of hide and seek. God forgot that God was God, so God could rejoice in the act of remembering. We go through all of this suffering and negativity, and this horror show, this nightmare, all to remember at the end of the day, oh, everything is good. It's all right. Life is perfect. Everything is okay. You are perfectly safe. No matter what you experience in this life, or in 1,000 lifetimes, you are forever and eternally free. Free from all suffering, immersed in the bliss of God, in your own radiance. I call the delta state no mind, the theta state the soul mind, the alpha state the ego mind, the beta state the intellect, and the gamma state the God mind. On these two sides of the spectrum, we return back to unity, and it is only here in which we get most separated from God, from our true nature. That is why you often see, archetypally speaking, most atheists fall under the same personality type. That is, they're highly intellectual, rational, thinking types. Very intelligent, yes, but they are the ones most separated from their true nature, from God. The higher brainwave frequencies you have, that is what we typically regard as being the most intelligent. And so the more intelligent you are, naturally the harder it is to believe in God. Simply because, biologically speaking, you don't see evidence of it. But I digress. You know, a lot of people say, well, when you die, there is nothing. Nothing. And people often complain and say, well, first of all, how do you know? But second of all, man, that would suck. What is it like to be nothing? I couldn't imagine being nothing. Lies. You lie. You experience nothing every night in deep sleep. And are you afraid to go into deep sleep every night? Oh no, I can't sleep. I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm not going to wake up. In deep sleep, you experience nothing. So don't be afraid. You already know what nothing is like. Nothing to worry about. But also think about it this way. Every single day of your life, you wake up in the morning. Except for one day. So, probability speaking, 99.99999. Sorry, I'm gonna get canceled for that one. Okay. Ow. Hit my elbow on the swords. I was being instant karma. 99.99999% of your life, you wake up every morning, except for the one day you don't. But mathematically speaking, wouldn't you say that the probability of you waking up simply somewhere else is near certain? I like these numbers. And well, as we've already discussed, you as the unchanging awareness shall wake up. Well, because, well, awareness by definition is always awake. Awareness is eternal life. But what happens is that life is a sine wave. And in the middle is the unchanging awareness. So for instance, here we are born in this life. Then we go, hit midlife, and then we die. Simply transfer into the next world. Spend a little time in deep sleep here. Dream reality. Enter back into the dream. Then born again into the physical world, the alpha and the beta state of consciousness. Here we are in our next life. Hit halfway point, back again. Spend some time in the spiritual realm. Maybe relax in heaven, depending on your good karma. And on and on and on for all eternity. Now don't be worried. Eternity is not a long time, okay? Eternity is no time. And you might say, well, I couldn't imagine eternity. That seems so crazy. I'm getting anxiety just listening about this. No, you already know what eternity is like, my friend. Because the present moment is eternal. Please relay to me a moment in which you are not in the present moment. It does not exist. From the moment you were born into the moment you die, there is one moment. That is the present. So, you don't really need to worry so much about past lives and future lives. Enjoy this present moment. When you learn to enjoy the moment, you learn to enjoy life. And when you enjoy life, you don't want it to end. And when it ends, you're fine with it. You can accept it. But what creates so much suffering is holding on to these unique forms. These human bodies are like clothes that we wear. Now you might be attached to your favorite sweater, but sometime you're going to put it up in the closet, and you can be fine with that. You can go put on another sweater. And you see, everything in existence merges back together in the present moment. So when we worry about things like, will we see our loved ones after we die? Where are they going to go? Are they going to go somewhere other than the present? They just changed clothes and you don't recognize them anymore. We are all here, no matter what, because there was never any separation in the first place. But don't be surprised when you die in the afterlife and you don't recognize your loved ones at first, because we perceive them as the potato, as the necklace. We didn't recognize them as the gold. But think about it this way. Think of a flower, for instance. You see a flower, and it's beautiful, and it smells great. But then you pluck it, and you let it wither and die for 3 days. Do you still love the flower the same? Same thing happens with our loved ones. You love them when they are alive, but you do not love the dead body the same. And so you see, it was the life in them that we loved. It was the life in the flower. It was the gold that we truly appreciated. The gold temporarily manifesting in a unique form. The essence of what we are never dies. It only changes. And well, we exist between two polar opposite realities. We know for a fact that there is a temporary world where everything is changing. They say change is the only constant. We know this to be fact, but can you have up without down? Or left without right? Or black without white? Or dark without light? Of course not. This is a mathematical universe. We need balance. Therefore, without even knowing anything, we can assume that there must be an eternal reality and there must be an unchanging reality because, well, there's got to be the opposite. And yes, it is true. There exists an eternal, unchanging reality. And our mind is the gateway between these two realities. The more you go within, the more eternal things get. And the more you go outside of yourself, the more temporary things are. And this is where ideas like, well, eternal heaven and eternal hell come into play. Because when you die, your body goes away. But when you retract back into yourself, you enter into a realm that is beyond the boundaries of space and time. So time is no longer a factor once you die. That doesn't mean you're going to burn in hell for all eternity. But it does mean that hell is eternal. Because hell is simply the negative polarity and heaven is the positive. Or you could say the positive is Christ. The negative is Satan. That is what they were talking about. This is a map of the mind. The positive polarity and the negative polarity. So you could say that there are these two eternal realities. There is heaven, which is the source, and there is the shadow of heaven, of source, that we call hell. Here's a basic map of ourselves. You see, the source, let's just say, it's energy beyond the boundaries of space and time. Infinite, eternal, limitless in nature. Unconditioned, pure consciousness. That is, at the end of the day, our true nature. So we could say this is infinite energy. And at this side of the spectrum, you could say is the opposite, is zero. You have infinite nothingness and infinite everythingness. And when you combine these two things, infinite energy slows down all the way to zero, with everything in between manifesting at its own unique frequency of existence. As consciousness makes its way towards the physical material realm, it becomes more and more conditioned, more and more unique. So we all have a unique individual body, but we are all the same one consciousness. So as we go this way toward the temporary realm, things become more unique. And as we go toward the inner eternal realm, things become more the same. The point is, you might wonder, well, what is a soul in the first place? It seems like some kind of abstract idea. All the soul is consciousness that has been conditioned into a unique form. All the mind is that same one consciousness continued to become more and more conditioned. And at the end, the body is the same one consciousness just packed into denser and denser forms. That is why we experience physical reality as solid, as the mind reality as fluid, and in the soul reality, it's the most fluid. And so the whole game of life is God manifesting as a soul, incarnating into an infinite array of different forms. And depending on whichever karma our soul has, that will determine the particular mind and body we will take form in. What is karma? Karma is nothing more than information, memory. Think about electricity through a telephone wire. Electricity is the consciousness. The information, well, is the information. And the unique information that is present determines the unique form that is taken. So when the body dies, the body goes away. And we return into the mental realm. Now here's what will determine what happens next. Depending on how much conditioning you have, you will either get sent into a new body to continue working out your karmic memory, learning life lessons, things like that. Or the mind will dissolve and you will return into the soul realm. Bam. Now here things are pretty much eternal. So you can go around living your life, enjoying being a spirit, helping others on their journey. I don't know what it's like. I don't remember. But that is what I imagine it's like. You're not embodied, obviously. But here is probably where you remember that, oh, I understand what life is. All that stuff in the world, that was pretty scary. But I'm sure glad that's all over now. And I'm free. And you can play this game for pretty much ever. And enjoy experiencing. And when you're done with it all, you work out all of your karma, all of your memory. And then you return back to Source. The source of infinite bliss. Wonderful. And dissolve back into that. And you're infinitely free. What happens after that? Who knows? But that's basically the game of life. Consciousness in its pure state separates itself from itself to experience. Because remember, when there is oneness, there is no experience. There has to be two in order to experience. So in a way, God separated itself so it could experience itself. And that is what we're doing here. And so we gather karma, we gather memory, we gather information. And then our soul incarnates into a particular body, the exact right everything that it needs in order to become free from that karmic memory, so that it can return to higher states of vibration and relish in the divine bliss of God. And once you figure that out, that all of your experiences were chosen specifically for you, you could even say you already knew before you entered this life what you were getting into. You chose this specific life because it was the exact thing you needed in order to become free from certain patterns, things that were keeping you stuck in lower vibrations. And so if you'd like to enter into the kingdom of heaven, do as Jesus said, "Come to me as little children, or else you will not enter the kingdom of heaven." Why? Because it's all about purification. The reason that we either go to heaven or go to hell is determined by how much we are pure or impure. Think about your soul, for instance, like a balloon. Naturally speaking, the balloon wants to rise up, but we have all of this conditioning, all of this memory, all of these attachments that is like mud on the balloon. And so instead of rising naturally, we can fall naturally. And the deeper we go to lower states of vibration, the more we enter into hell. But hell is not a place of punishment. It is a rehabilitation center. And so when we fall down to hell, all of the conditioning begins burning off. And as it begins burning off, it purifies us. And we can rise up back again. Whether in one lifetime, whether in a bunch of lifetimes, doesn't matter. This is what I experienced. Baptism by fire. Because suffering is a purifying agent. Which is why oftentimes those who suffer most have the greatest opportunity for freedom. And so really it comes down to how much are you willing to let go? How much are you willing to surrender? Or how attached are you to your stories and your identities? How attached are you to the illusion? Because heaven is truth, is God, and hell is ignorance and illusion. So the more we are attached to our illusion, the more we are living in hell, the more we suffer. And well, here I am, a living example of how I was living in ignorance and illusion for a long time, suffering all the time, so much suffering. And as I've continued to let go of the illusion, when I stopped believing in my ego identity, I stopped believing I was a thought, I stopped believing I was a body or a mind, the conditioning began falling away. And you know you're on the right path, on the spiritual journey, the more you begin experiencing peace, relief, freedom, love, joy, jiao, and abundance. Because this is the nature of heaven. The more you suffer, the more you know you've temporarily gone off track. There's a reason they say follow your bliss, because the bliss will lead you back home. The kingdom of God is within you. Seek and you shall find. Remember who you are, because there are great and vast riches awaiting for you, my friend. And the X that marks the spot on this treasure map is right underneath your feet, in the present moment that is eternal. And it all begins with seeing through the illusion of the person we believe ourselves to be, seeing through the illusion of the ego. Because when you try to find the ego, you realize it does not exist. Who we believe we are nothing but thoughts believed in. And that, simply enough, is the source of all of our suffering. Because it separates us from our true nature. That is peace, freedom, love, joy, and abundance. You are the source of all you seek. It's time to stop playing in the illusion, my friend. It's time to wake up. I am Ray. Visit my cool store. Much peace and many blessings. And remember, just be.